Welcome back to the Data Protection Diaries. Welcome back to the vlog. Of course, it's Sunday, which means this is the sort of weekly news roundup. Now, as always, if you find these videos useful, if you find them interesting, or you're new to the channel, please do make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Lots of our views are coming from people that aren't subscribed, so it'd be great to have you on the channel. Make sure you hit the like button as well. All of this just helps YouTube understand that these videos are interesting and people like them, and obviously it just shares it out with more people, so you'll be doing us a massive favour. For now, anyway, let's get on with what we want to talk about today. So usually on a Sunday, we like to look at the news roundup of the week, see what's been going on in the privacy and security industries. And while I was looking around this week, I came across a couple of things that weren't particularly massively interesting. I thought, well, there's no point in doing something about lots of little things that aren't interesting when there is one particular thing that's taken my attention. And this actually aggrieves me a little bit, so I think that's probably better to cover. This is the news that YouTube or Google have been hit with a potential $3 billion class action lawsuit from a non-profit tech law firm here in the UK. Now, the first thing that frustrates me about this article is that it is classed as a $3 billion lawsuit, probably because that sounds more impressive than if they did it in pounds and sterling. Now, for some reason, that always just gets to me. The second thing that frustrates me about this is that they are taking Google to task, or they're taking YouTube to task over the use of millions of children's data on the site. What they're essentially saying is that those children have been subjected to addictive programming, so they are being constantly shown videos or links or channels that they would then find interesting, and they are, cumulatively becoming addicted to that information, and then that information is being used to advertise to those individuals on a more aggressive basis. Now, anyone or any adult that has an understanding of how the internet works and how Google works, Facebook works, for instance, should already be well aware that that is in fact their business model. So you're going to kind of expect that to happen. Now, from my perspective, what I'm not trying to say here is that what Google and YouTube, etc., are doing is correct, but there has to be some kind of level of responsibility for the adults who are allowing these individuals to use this system. Now, in particular, this class action lawsuit looks at the fact that the age of consent in the UK is actually 13 years old. So if you want to use an information societal service, you want to use Facebook, you want to use Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it is, whatever everybody's using these days, the person using it has to consent to being 13 years old. Now, of course, this is actually incredibly difficult for companies to establish, because all you're really doing is putting a couple of fields on your website on the registration page saying, are you 13 or are you over the age of 13? What's your date of birth? And then, any 10-year-old with a bit of nous is obviously going to change their date of birth to suit. Sometimes if you haven't done it first time, then it won't let you change it, and it already recognises that obviously you're not being allowed in. So obviously there are controls in place for that, but also from my perspective, there's a huge responsibility on the adult to make sure that your children are using these services in an appropriate fashion. My 7-year-old daughter absolutely loves YouTube. She loves watching it, she loves being on it, she loves being involved, but she doesn't have her own account. She has an account that I set up, and I can see what she watches, how often she watches, and determine whether or not that she's watching is appropriate. It also means that it stops some of the targeted advertising. I mean, you can't get rid of it. Based on the videos she's watching, it's obviously going to show her things that are of interest. But that responsibility does as much lie with us as adults as it does lie with Google and YouTube. Now, the thing that really gets my goat, and the reason that I wanted to cover this particular thing in terms of the news for this week, is specifically around the use of these non-profit tech justice law firms that are carrying out these kind of far-reaching scattergun lawsuits. In particular, this case, Obviously, the cost or the amount that they're putting on this is in the region of $3 billion. That sounds like a lot of money, and it is in its single term, if you just look at it as the amount that the lawsuit is being filed for. But when you break it down in terms of the individuals that are involved, what we're actually saying is that the millions of potentially under 13s and 13-year-olds that are being affected by this particular activity and the advertising, etc., being carried out on YouTube, the actual outcome of that is a few £100 for each of those individuals, which leads me to think, and maybe I'm being, maybe I'm being unfair, maybe I'm not giving it the due attention that it deserves, which leads me to believe that this has absolutely nothing to do with financial compensation for the people who have apparently been so deeply affected by this activity, but has absolutely everything to do with making money for the non-profit tech justice law firm. Because let's face it, they're not doing this out of the goodwill of their heart. They are not NOIB, they are not Privacy Matters, they are not one of the many prolific pro-regulation groups out there who are trying to do this for the greater good. They are doing this to make money. There is already a consultation being undertaken by the UK regulator, so here in the UK, the RCO, about these representative groups and how they operate in a non-profit fashion, and whether or not they are actually providing a non-profit service with the best interests of the individual in mind, whether they're actually doing it to further their own gains. And that's going to come out over the next couple of months. So I think this is going to be particularly interesting. Personally, I think the class action lawsuit activity that we are starting to see more and more, I don't think it has any particular benefit for anybody other than the organisations who are initiating these class action lawsuits. I don't think there's any great benefit to the individuals that are going to be involved in this. And I don't think that's the purpose. And to be honest, that's what frustrates me, and that's why I get annoyed when I start to see these things coming through, because actually for me, it devalues what the regulation is about. It devalues the Data Protection Act, devalues the GDPR in terms of it was never there to create money. It was never there to take these organisations to account financially. It was there to take them to account morally and ethically, and look at how we can actually make the use and processing of data better for all involved. And this, for me, and I'm sorry if I'm ranting about this, really, really frustrates me. That is my view. I'd love to know what you think about this. Do you think class action lawsuits are applicable here in the UK? Do you think they have any benefit, or are they just there to line the pockets of the organisations who are starting them? Do let me know. Have a think. Post your ideas down in the comments. As always, thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy these videos, please do make sure that you subscribe to the channel, like this video, and obviously let us know if there's anything else you think that we should be covering on these sort of weekly news updates. And other than that, we look forward to talking to you again later in the week. Thanks very much. Bye.